Welcome to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekker Team, and I'm Yetta Dekker, and today I am here with Ian McLean. Hi, Ian.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Well, I'm pleased to be here.
Well,
it's wonderful to be with you.
I'm excited to have you. And one of the reasons I'm so excited is you may have already met Ian actually on previous shows. He is a lawyer in Ottawa, and there are previous shows where he's answered all kinds of questions about lawyering, buying and selling, and there will be future shows doing the same thing. Today's show is a little bit unique in that he is a lawyer we recommend frequently and has done a great job for many of our clients. And he is also a client a couple of times over. So we're actually going to talk about his experience.
Yes, I've been pleased to be a client several times now. Really.
Yeah, exactly. With his wife, Roz. So not standing alone, except you know that we generally only chat with one person at a time. So Ian's going to tell their story. And maybe sometime we'll have Roz on, and we'll see how varied their stories are.
In this case, I imagine they'd be rather similar.
Okay, fair enough. So let me ask you, Ian, what caused you to choose the Dekker Team in the first place?
Well, it's a bit of a story.
Okay.
If you're prepared to hear it. My wife Rosalind and I have been married 36 years, and in that time we've bought houses in Toronto and then North Bay and then finally in Ottawa. And over the years, despite the fact I've practiced real estate law for all of that time, we never really developed a relationship with an agent that we felt we were comfortable with or ultimately trusted. In fact, we found one agent that we actually used a couple times, and it took us a couple times to figure out what was going on. This agent would give us a price for our house, which sounded a very good price. And then within about 2 weeks would say, well, you know, the market's changing, and we really have to start dropping the price. And we, not being real estate agents, but rather myself as a lawyer and Rosalind as a therapist, of course, we deferred to the professional opinion. And we would drop the price. And eventually the house would sell, the real estate agent would get her commission, and everything was fine. We started to realize there was a pattern forming here. And then when we moved to Ottawa, we were going to buy a house here. We didn't know any real estate agents, so we picked somebody out of the blue, more or less. This person showed us some houses, and we got the impression that, yes, this person was really interested in her commission. And she made a very good commission office, quite frankly, and we got a house that we liked, but there was no real personal connection there. And then the last time, basically, a series of fortuitous circumstances, we were put in touch with the Dekker Team, and for the first time ever, Ken and Yetta actually showed up at the house and asked us some interesting questions like, what kind of a house do you want? What kind of people are you? How can we meet your needs, and how can you work together with us? We'd never had anything like that. We'd never had the personal contact. We'd never had the feeling that these agents really cared about us rather than their commission. And we're only too pleased to pay real estate agents their commission because they've earned it. The problem is we never really felt that they cared for us. The Dekker Team took an interest in us as people, and that made all the difference, because I've often said, even when people come into my office for real estate, first thing they buy is you, and then they buy your product. Well, we bought Ken and Yetta because of who they were and the integrity we saw, and then ultimately we bought their product. That's how we got onto the Dekker Team.
But how did you even meet us? How did that even happen?
Oh, it was a fortuitous set of circumstances.
Yeah.
Again, we knew nobody in Ottawa, but we met actually through the Christian radio station.
That's right.
When we phoned to talk to the people at the Christian radio station, and they said, well, there is a couple that we know that also have advertised on here, and they're the Dekker Team. And we phoned up, and a young lady answered the phone. Turns out her brother, my wife and I, we were pastors as well up in North Bay. We'd actually married her brother and his wife at the time. And sure enough, we found out that she was in Ottawa, and having no idea that she was working in a real estate office,
That's right.
and having absolutely no idea that she was working in the office owned by the Dekkers.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting connection. So we phoned with some expectation that we would meet people that we would get along with, and our expectation was fully realized.
That's very cool, isn't it?
It was a wonderful set of circumstances.
Yeah, it really
but
was.
here we are, and of course, after helping us sell our house, of course you had to help us buy a house.
Right.
And then we wanted to move our office.
Right.
So Ken helped us find a new office for my legal practice.
Yeah.
So we've been back 3 times, I guess, as clients.
Yeah, within a year.
Within a year. And our service has been more than satisfactory. And in fact, we've been virtually continuous contact since then.
Yeah, we have. It's been really neat. What did you, we've talked about your interest a little bit. So your priority was your best interest, right? Like our priority needed to be your best interest. And you felt that, right?
That was what made the difference. It
Right.
wasn't just about commission.
Right.
And granted, real estate agents make a good commission on the houses, and they deserve it, quite frankly. If you're going to perform a service, you deserve to be paid for it.
Right.
But it's more than the commission, and it always was more than the commission with you and Ken. It was about us as people and making sure that our needs and what we wanted was fully realized in the transaction. It just wasn't a thing of showing us a house here, quick, put in an offer on this one. It's going tomorrow, there are 2 or 3 other offers coming in. Some of us have heard the lines before. So we better act quickly. If we're going to get this one, have to do it now or we're going to lose it.
Right.
And there was none of that high pressure tactic that so often you can see.
Right. So specifically where, so short of not being pressured needlessly, and obviously if it is the truth that there's 2 other offers coming in, I'm going to tell my client that.
Oh, of course.
I'm going to inform them, and you're right, sometimes people are reluctant to believe it even when it's the truth because they've been told that more than once, and it hasn't always been the truth, right?
We could never confirm that, but we certainly have had our suspicions in the past, yes.
Yeah. So specifically, where did it show up? Like, what experience did you have that you went, yes, they're going to earn an income, and absolutely we are, except it's not about the income, it's about me, the client. Was there a specific time where you knew that that was true?
Oh, yes. When you and Ken came to our house, we sat at a dining room table, and you asked us the question we'd never heard before, namely, how can we help you? And what do you expect from a real estate agent, and how can we keep you in the loop at all stages? We'd never heard that before.
Okay.
And again, it was the personal connection, it was the integrity we saw in that. And that's what sold us.
And one of the questions that I find most fascinating is one of the ones you just mentioned, and that is, what do you expect from me as your realtor? And every time I ask it, which I do pretty much every time I sit down with anybody, even if I've worked with them before, because maybe your expectations have changed since the last time, I probably have a clue if we've worked together before. Mm-hmm. However, what if things have changed for you and you have different expectations this time? And that one is probably the most profound question, the answers to that, because they're not the same.
Well, no, there was a question that made us think.
Yeah.
We'd never been asked it before. And I remember kind of looking at Rosalind, and Rosalind looked at me, and we really didn't know how to answer that.
And yet you did.
Oh, we did, but we were able to. But it was an interesting question because, again, we'd never heard it before.
Yeah.
And the actual fact that the agent was interested in us and how we would expect to be treated and how we would be involved in the process. And it wouldn't be just, fine, I'm going to list this, it's called MLS, we'll see if we can get an offer, and as soon as we get an offer, we'll see you again. It was, we will be involved in this process from today, when you sign the agreement to allow us to list it, right through to the closing. Right. And that's what we appreciated. And that's
fun.
where we really felt that we were being treated, not only as people, but really as associates. In this case, it became friends.
Yeah, it did. It was really awesome. What specific needs did the Dekker team fulfill for you? Short of listening and short of putting your best interest at heart, what else specifically did they do for you that was maybe unique?
Well, they asked us basically what would be convenient for us. You know, when could people come through? When would it be convenient? How much time did we need to get the place ready? Because there's always the last minute cleanup when you're showing a house. Right. And just the general consideration of who we were, what our schedule was, and how to least inconvenience us in what is an inconvenient process. There's
well, it
no two
is,
ways about
yeah.
it.
And we're not promising anybody that it doesn't have its challenges, because it does.
Oh, it does. You've got to get your dog out there. You've got to remove the dog. You've got to get all the dog hairs out.
And the dishes, ideally.
The dishes, clean the place, make sure it's shipshape.
Yeah.
Make sure it's looking the way the Dekker team would want it to show and the way we would want it to show.
Well, because ultimately, if we have a great impression, first impression as people come in, the more probability is we're going to get the money we want for it.
Oh, yeah. First impression, the place is sold usually in the first 30 seconds.
Yep. Maybe even faster than that. So, you know, at least 3/4 of the decisions being made by the time they're in the front foyer.
Well, when we bought our house, it was already been made, and I was informed that I was buying that house.
That's true. We did it without you, didn't we?
Without me, yeah, without me. Well, that's okay, because I'd bought an office space without Roz before, so that was retribution.
Yeah, it worked.
It was commendable retribution, because they had picked the house we liked.
Yeah.
And we walked in the door, and I instantly knew that was the place, and I knew that Rosalind loved it, and I knew that you'd shown it to her.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to love it.
You did.
And I did.
Which was a good thing.
Yeah, so everybody was on board with that one.
Yeah. Was there a time, well, maybe this is the time, that you felt a little out of control?
No. Even when the house was basically been bought before I saw it,
yeah,
I knew that ultimately I would have some input. And
okay.
I could have said no, and we could have had a discussion about it, but no, I never felt out of control in the process.
Okay.
But I felt that I was guided through the process.
Right.
And again, if you were there, Ken was there, the whole team was behind us. The whole team was working for us and with us. And that was the key thing. It wasn't just, we're kind of leaving you here on your own, and here's a house A, house B, house C, which do you want to put an offer on? It is, how does this fit your needs? How would you adjust to this place? What could we do? What should we add? There was just that constant input. And it was positive.
Right.
It was a really positive experience, and I can't say that, again, in my experience over the years that we've had that in similar circumstances.
Right.
It hasn't always been positive. We haven't, at the end of the day, felt that we were listened to. Yes, we would get the house, and yes, it was usually the house we wanted or the house we liked, but the process was somewhat lacking.
Right.
And we realized that, well, it's a business, people are in it for money, and there's nothing wrong with being in a business to make money. I'm in a business to make money.
Yeah.
But it's about clients.
Right.
It's about the client. It's about service.
Right. Because if you don't serve, well, if you serve, you're going to make the money anyway,
yes.
So you don't really have to worry about the money.
Yes. Yeah. And especially when you're in a service business, and your business is service,
That's
my business is service, that's all there is.
Yeah.
Because there's 100 lawyers out there that'll do the same thing for you.
Yeah.
And you get these phone calls, what are your rates? Well, people, the first thing they want to know is how much you're going to charge them. It's an immediate, well, do I really want to work with these people?
Right.
The first question is, what are you going to do for me? Or how can, I always say, well, bring your offer in and let's talk.
Right.
And let's see how we relate, because it's going to be a relationship. For a client coming to me, it's the most important investment they'll ever make.
Yeah.
And if they're interested or making a decision based on is it going to cost $100 more than the fellow down the street, they don't have the right perspective on it at all.
No, it may not work very well.
It may not work.
And I think if I could recall back to when we were looking at property, we actually did put an offer in on another property.
We
and
did.
in fact get it accepted.
Yes.
And then as we worked through that process, it became apparent that some of the things we had hoped to do with the property and make the property really wasn't going to be easily achievable.
That was true.
It would potentially be achieved, except it was going to be much more arduous than it first looked like on the onset.
Yes.
And so we decided collectively that we were not going to move forward with that property, and we still was during the conditional period, so we had that opportunity. What was that like for you in terms of, was there guilt or pushing, or was there anything that would make you feel uncomfortable through that part?
No, there was the usual trepidation of, well, if we don't get this one, maybe we're never going to find anything.
Right.
But right at the crisis point, you and Ken went back and said, well, listen, there are alternatives. And your concern then wasn't, let's get this thing closed so we can get our commission and bank it.
Right.
Because so many agents would have said, oh, well, you can do this, you can do that, let's just close the deal because everything's good about it. Yes, it was good, but it wasn't the best.
Yeah.
And the approach that was taken was, well, that's not really the one that ultimately you're going to want. Let's try others. Here's an alternative. And as soon as we saw that alternative, we realized that the good was the enemy of the best.
Yeah, I remember that one, and it was good.
It was lovely. It was a lovely house. It just wasn't us.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something we ultimately would have been happy in.
No, not as happy as where you are now.
Exactly. We were delighted when we saw the alternative that you found for us.
Yeah. If you're just joining us now on the Inside Track on Real Estate, you're here with Yetta Dekker and with Ian McLean, and we're talking about his experience both as a buyer and a seller, and actually as a tenant. So you kind of got the whole investment side of real estate, the buying of real estate, the selling of real estate, all wrapped up into one person.
We did.
Well, one couple, one family, yeah.
And one company and one agency, yes.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun. So if you haven't heard all of it, go back to the first half and listen to it. And also there is previous interviews as well as interviews that will take place after this one with Ian, which is talking about his real estate legal practice. And he does lots of other types of law too, so that's where my hesitation was there for a minute. But anyway, his legal practice, and so lots of good information there. But meanwhile, let's just chat a little bit more about your actual experience with buying and selling and renting with us. You've experienced quite a few moves.
We have over the years. Again, we started in Toronto. We lived there when we first married. And then we moved to North Bay, and we moved several times there. And then finally, in the last couple of years, we've relocated, I think, for the final time.
That's what we're hoping.
Well, I'm certainly hoping that, into Ottawa. And again, the Ottawa move was different because we didn't have the familiarity with the market.
Right.
Toronto, I knew real estate. I knew basically what was going on. I'd born and raised there. North Bay, there wasn't that much to figure out. The town's not that big. A lovely town, but not a lot of variation, and you could see exactly what the market was saying, and it was pretty straightforward. Ottawa was an unknown to us.
Yeah.
And as I said, when we first came, we didn't have the Dekker team, and we weren't ultimately very satisfied.
Right.
We bought a house, very nice house. Agent made a very nice commission on it. But again, it didn't suit us. And within about a year, we realized this wasn't for us. It was in an area that was hard to reach. Lovely area, but hard to reach. We needed 2 cars anytime we were going somewhere. It just wasn't going to meet our needs. We had to get a car to go every place. Now, when you found us the place we're in now, it meets our needs. We can walk to most everything we want to do. Now that Ken found us their present office space, I can walk to work.
Isn't that cool?
Which is something I've always wanted to do and never had the opportunity, certainly not in Toronto.
Right.
And in North Bay, we lived out on a Trout Lake, which, if anybody knows North Bay, is about 15 minutes from the downtown.
Right.
But still, it was a commute.
Right.
And now I walk to work. It's 5 minutes from
Isn't
door
that
to door.
fun?
And it's wonderful.
That is neat. Now, you had the opportunity to work with different team members, you were saying. How specifically did the specialization of the different team members benefit you?
Oh, very much so. When we went over to the commercial side, it was Ken that was dealing with us, because he was more familiar with commercial real estate. He helped us. He showed us a couple places. We looked at one that would have met our needs, but wasn't quite what we needed. And then we found the most unexpected one that we wouldn't have thought would ever work for us, and it's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also would have interacted with some of the gals that did the brochures and did your videography and your photography and all that sort of stuff. And how did that feel for you to have different people doing different things?
Well, I like the specialization. You always go to somebody who has the particular expertise. Again, as an outsider, as a layperson in one sense, as the client, it's great to have the expertise that you can go to the one person that can give you the right answer, can provide the right service for you. And when it's all wrapped up in a team, you can go to that team and then get delegated, so to speak, into the areas of particular expertise, and that's very helpful.
So you found that unique for your experience?
It was, and it's certainly a confidence builder for the client. My goodness, not only have you got the agent, but you've got everybody associated with the agent. Everybody's pulling together. Everybody's working together, and you get the impression that everyone's working in your interest.
Right.
And that's the point. And everybody's concerned to make sure that you're satisfied and your needs have been met. And they were.
Good. And I mean, ultimately, I know our goal is to address your needs before you even know you have the need.
Yeah.
And I don't say we always pull that one off, and yet that's the focus of the team, is what does the client need and how can we give it to them before they even ask for it?
It's a great strategy, and in our case, it certainly worked.
Okay, awesome. And what suggestions would you have for us in terms of making the experience better?
Keep doing what you're doing.
There's got to be something, though, that we could do that would just make you go, oh, that's just really cool.
Well, a bottle of wine on closing.
Okay, there you go. If you're a wine drinker, that might be an idea.
That works, yeah.
Okay, good. And overall, if we had to do sort of a rating of what the experience was like for you, 1 low, 10 high, how might you rate the overall experience?
Well, for us, it was an unqualified 10. It really was. Again, not only just because I'm on the Dekker show,
Yes.
but because I really mean it. The experience was very positive, very congenial, very much coordinated through team, and our expectations were not only met, quite frankly, our expectations were exceeded. We'd never had an experience like that in the real estate business, and again, I've been at it for 35 years in my own practice, and I've met many, many agents through many, many agencies, and we've dealt with many agents, including when I first started, friends from high school that were my first agents, and they gave us good service, but again, it was nothing compared to what I've seen from the Dekker team, and I congratulate you on that. Your team is first rate, and may you continue to have the success you've enjoyed because, quite frankly, you've earned it.
Thank you. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows we don't get everything perfectly right. There's errors on the property brochures when we first do them sometimes. There's inputting errors on the MLS. There is all kinds of things that unfortunately can go south. There's probably about 500 little steps that we orchestrate to pull it all together. And I wish I could say that we'd figured out how to do it perfectly. We haven't. So it isn't to say that it was a perfect experience.
Nothing ever is. I'm
Right.
sure there were typos there somewhere, but I can't recall them.
Well, and there may not have been on yours. I just sort of say that that's certainly a possibility, and then we want to do what we can to rectify those situations. So by no means are we saying when we're sitting here and I'm hearing Ian say it's a 10 service, I'm thinking, yeah, it's not perfect. And so I just want to put a disclaimer on that saying it is our desire to do it really well for you and to have you feel that you are vital, because you are. You are the vital part of our business, because without our clients, without Ian and Roz, and without folks like you that are listening and that have dealt with us before or are going to, we don't have a business. We have nothing to do. And that's no fun.
It wouldn't be much fun sitting here just waiting for the phone to ring, but
No.
same in my office. You know, if the phone never rings, you're not doing much business and you're not in business.
You're not.
So that phone better ring, and that phone better ring because the service is being provided, and it's being provided well.
Yeah.
And again, unfortunately, my office isn't perfect either. We've made some mistakes over the years, and I've made them myself, and I promise clients when they come in that I will continue to make them. But we'll do the best we can to make sure we get through them, and just like your team, you get through them.
Yeah.
Can I remember anything? Possibly there were 2 or 3 things that may not have clicked 100% of the time at their appropriate time, but the overall experience, you asked me reflecting back, I can't think of them.
Right.
Because the positives so outweighed anything that may have happened, I've forgotten it.
Right. And that's good. That's the way we want it to be, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And yet we want to put a reality to the whole situation because there is so many pieces and parts,
Sure.
right? And did you find that when you wanted to reach an agent, because this is something I hear often out there and I think is a common challenge for folks, is when they're working with a team, I think the concern is, well, they're just going to push us off to somebody.
No, that didn't happen. I had cell numbers, I had email numbers, I had the office phone number here. And as I recall it, and again, Rosalind was probably your contact even more than I was because I wasn't in town all the time.
Right.
But I cannot recall her saying once that she couldn't contact the office. She wasn't getting a call back. And I know I've never had that experience because I've got all those contacts. We are in the 21st century.
Right.
As much as some of us regret that. But we do have this communication ability. I've always had your email, Ken's email. I've had phone numbers. I've got cell numbers.
Yeah.
There's even an overall Keller Williams number or whatever that'll direct us. So, no, there was always good contact.
Okay, good. Because that is, I think, a fear for a lot of people that when they're dealing with a team that's working with a fair number of clients that they're going to lose the personal touch. And what I hear you saying, Ian, is that didn't happen.
Didn't happen in our case. I can't speak for anyone other than Rosalind and myself, but it certainly did not happen with us.
Right.
We felt that we were important. There was a ministry in England that's still going, I know, and the motto of the ministry is very simple: people are important.
Right.
And we used to put that on the church letterhead many years ago and take it around to various spots within North Bay and Toronto and now in Ottawa. But that's kind of the motto.
Yeah.
And if you remember that people are important, because your business is all about people.
Yeah, there is nothing outside of it.
There's nothing else.
Yeah.
And that's what we found here, and that's what I'm pleased to tell anybody that would ask.
Thank you.
Now, granted, we don't get a lot of people phoning us saying we need a real estate agent, but if we do, and we do occasionally, and we have no hesitation in where it goes. We don't give them a list of 3. We say, call these people.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate that. So if you're just joining us now, you've missed a great show hearing Ian and Roz's experience with the Dekker team, and I just want to highlight a particular property that is for sale right now, an awesome property actually in Manotick, $625,000, 4-bedroom, beautifully renovated, just a lovely property, a gourmet, amazing kitchen, only done in the last couple of years. Some nice outdoor landscaping, spacious, beautiful gas fireplace. Just lots of treats and treasures in this house because it's been substantially renovated and freshly painted. Lots of hardwood floors, beautiful large tile. And so if you want a great spot in Manotick at a pretty affordable price for Manotick, you want to give us a call at 613-860-4663, or you can just connect with us at info@dekkerteam.com. For this property or any property for that matter, we've got properties, probably a couple of dozen at any time, 20 to 30 properties that we personally have available, plus lots of properties that we know about that are coming up or that are going to be available shortly. We carry what we call exclusive listings as well as listings on the MLS. So that is properties that we have listed, but they're not on the public sites yet. And because people are doing some prep or whatever the case may be, and yet they're available for our clients to take a look at. So if you're interested in any of that, you'll want to call us and we'll help you sort that out. So if you would like to be featured as a client on the Inside Track, or you have a service that you would like us to feature, then let us experience your service, because all of the service providers that we do have on the show, we have almost always firsthand knowledge of, and in the rare case where we don't, somebody we know intimately well has firsthand knowledge. So we tend to have the cleaners, if we're going to feature a cleaner, we have them come out to our house first. If we're going to feature a lawyer, we have that lawyer do some of our work as well, so that we are actually able to endorse pretty much everybody that's on the show. And if you're ever in doubt, give us a call. We would gladly let you know what our experience is. So thanks for joining us on the Inside Track on real estate. And thank you, Ian. You are always a delight to connect with.
Oh, thank you. It's been a delight to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Ian.
My pleasure.
So thanks for joining us on the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekker team. And if you want to check out archive shows, you can do it at chri.ca. They actually have the video version as well as the audio version as well. You can find both on dekkerteam.com. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.